Greg.
Greta, CENTCOM said today that the Kurdish militia inside of Kobani had the town under control. The view from the ground was a little bit different. Take a look at what we saw. This is the look of the Kobani battlefield today. In the east, it is quiet, ISIS in control. The center, quiet. We saw a lot of fighting yesterday, maybe ISIS in control. To the west of center, a lot of smoke, a lot of noise. Kurd defenders fighting ISIS. Over to the western side, we're seeing a lot of smoke. We have seen U.S. coalition airstrikes there in the past. We are hearing jets overhead. And to the far right, Turkish tanks poised, ready, doing nothing. Well, just in front of us on the western side of that city, we saw multiple blasts, huge fireballs, smoke rising in the air. And in fact, CENTCOM in just the last couple of minutes has confirmed that in the past 2 days, there have been 14 U.S. coalition airstrikes in and around that town, hitting ISIS tanks, guns, units, a training camp, vehicles. It appears that in the eyes of the U.S. strategists, Kobani could be gaining in importance. Meanwhile, on this side of the border, inside Turkey, fighting of a different kind continues. There were clashes for the third night in a row between ethnic Kurds and Turkish security. It is now believed there's something like 30 dead in these violent protests. The Kurds are angry with Turkey for not doing more to stop the fighting inside Kobani. The role of Turkey in this battle against ISIS, no doubt, will be a topic of discussion tomorrow when General John Allen, who heads up the U.S.-led campaign against ISIS, meets with Turkish officials here again. A lot to talk about. Greta.
Greg, I mean, that seems like a huge change in 24 hours if now there's fighting inside Turkey between the Kurds and the Turks. I mean, now it is going beyond Syria and Iraq.
Absolutely. It's become a regional problem, Greta. The ethnic Kurd population makes up 25%, by the way, of the Turkish population. Very upset about what the Turkish government is doing or not doing inside Kobani. And there are real fears that there could be a destabilization of this country, a very important NATO ally for the United States, Greta.
Greg, thank you. And the Pentagon is warning us tonight Kobani will most likely fall to ISIS. So why isn't the U.S. doing more to protect Kobani? Well, Secretary of State John Kerry now saying that is not the main goal of the U.S.-led coalition.
As horrific as it is to watch in real time what's happening in Kobani, it's also important to remember you have to step back and understand the strategic objective and where we have begun over the course of the last weeks.
And today, Senator John McCain tweeting, sad to see Secretary Kerry try to downplay impact of impending atrocities in Kobani by murderous terrorist army ISIS. And Senator John McCain joins us. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Greta.
Well, it certainly sounds like the U.S. is giving up on Kobani. And now with Greg Palcott's report that there's fighting between the Kurds and the Turks, it sounds like this is just spreading. This is getting worse.
Well, the Kurds obviously are very unhappy, but this is kind of demonstrations within Turkey that are serious, but they're not warfare. But for John Kerry to blithely dismiss the deaths of thousands of people and then our Pentagon touting 14 strikes into Kobani or in the outskirts because since we have no one on the ground, there is no way of really identifying targets. So the brave Kurds, and I mean the Peshmerga, very brave fighters, they don't have the military capability, the arms and equipment that that the ISIS has, because ISIS has ours, and we refuse to send weapons directly to the Kurds and the Peshmerga so that they can fight better. I mean, I'm beginning to believe that if it wasn't so tragic, this would almost be farce.
You know, it seems to me, I mean, there's something very bizarre about the fact we have the Secretary of State making an admission, Kobani is falling. He said that's now not our goal. I don't know, I thought the goal was to protect ISIS from spreading. He says it's not our goal. Meanwhile, we're doing 14 airstrikes. If 14 airstrikes don't work, maybe we got the wrong strategy, because we know one thing, it's getting worse.
Well, let me point out, too, I have strong disagreements with Erdogan on a number of issues, including Israel. But he's right in this respect. He is demanding that there be a buffer in inside Syria on the Turkish border and a no-fly zone for Bashar Assad, because what we're doing is immoral. We're allowing Bashar Assad to destroy the Free Syrian Army, because every time we bomb ISIS, Bashar Assad moves in and attacks the Free Syrian Army with more intensity. By the way, these are the same ones. We're training 5,000 of them. We're going to send them back into Syria to be bombed by Bashar Assad. I mean, this is really as convoluted and as immoral as anything I've ever seen the United States of America do.
What do you make of what Vice President Biden said about Turkey? I mean, that whole border between Turkey and Syria has appeared to be a sieve where, fighters have been going back and forth. Was Vice President Biden right about Turkey?
I think that there are border control issues with Turkey, and as I say, there are some areas that we're in disagreement. But Bashar Assad is right. We have two enemies, ISIS and Erdogan is right. We have two enemies, Bashar Assad and ISIS, and we cannot do it sequentially. We have to do it together. If we're going to help the Free Syrian Army, let's help them, and not play this game where 14 airstrikes is supposed to have some kind of impact on what. Look, I was in the Vietnam War. There was a place called Khe Sanh, which was surrounded by North Vietnamese. There was round-the-clock bombing day and night by B-52s, and it was a near thing.
Well, okay, so I didn't get, I'm trying to figure out, Vice President Biden seemed to step up the pressure on Turkey and had to apologize. You seem to say that there's some things you agreed with the President of Turkey on. So I'm trying to figure out where Turkey is in this. I mean, was Vice President Biden, was he right to sort of, speak out about this?
No, I don't think so. I think it could be done in other ways. What he did was alienate both UAE, Saudi Arabia, and the Turks. He had a trifecta there. We have been unhappy with a lot of the things that the Turks have been doing. And there's been rich Saudis, not the government of Saudi Arabia, that have funneled money into ISIS and Al-Qaeda and others. And the same thing with UAE and Qatar. But we can't afford to alienate them, and the Vice President of the United States shouldn't be saying it publicly. But finally, Bashar Assad will join, excuse me, I keep mixing them up, Erdogan and the Turks will join this fight if we will set up this buffer zone and a no-fly zone, then and aim our objectives at both ISIS and Bashar Assad to take them both down. Remember, Bashar Assad has massacred nearly 200,000 people.
Is Secretary Kerry on board with that or not?
Oh, we keep hearing that there's this great debate in the White House. I've heard that for so many years now. It grows tiresome. And they tell me privately, hey, we're really working on it. Don't worry, we'll get it done. And it never gets done. I'm getting a little cynical.
Senator, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And this is very grim news. ISIS is now successfully, yes, successfully using shoulder-fired missiles to shoot down aircraft over Iraq and Syria. Yesterday's success? Well, they shot down an Iraqi military helicopter out of the sky, and that is the second time in less than a week. Fox News correspondent Doug McElway live at the Pentagon with the latest. Doug.
Hi, Greta. The Pentagon has indeed confirmed that ISIS fighters succeeded in downing an Iraqi helicopter yesterday near Beji, Iraq. That's about 130 miles north of Baghdad, the site of that country's largest oil refinery. ISIS has released still photographs that purport to show the shoot down. The missile used to strike that chopper was a Soviet-designed shoulder-fired man-portable air defense system, or MANPAD as they're called. It is widely known that ISIS fighters have obtained many MANPADs when they overtook a Syrian air base last August. The earliest versions of these weapons are Vietnam era, but the most advanced ones are capable of shooting down aircraft at an altitude as high as 20,000 feet, posing a serious threat to coalition aircraft. The Pentagon has said that the U.S. manned Apache helicopters are now on station in Iraq. It won't say how many of them are there, but that they're primarily to protect U.S. personnel and facilities in the Baghdad area, although they have flown to some extent in support of Iraqi army operations against ISIS. In addition, ISIS has posted on the internet video, this webpage, on how to shoot down an Apache helicopter. The Pentagon says it is well aware of the threat and that all U.S. aircraft operating there do have effective countermeasures. And one final note, Greta, the Manpad is a bit of a finicky weapon, I should say. It is battery operated, and when in storage, that battery can last for several days. When the battery is activated, it runs out in only a matter of seconds. So without the battery, it is a virtually useless weapon. Greta, back to you.
Doug, thank you.